Welcome to Insights for Manufacturing, a podcast that supports the UK manufacturing sector. Hosted by Jeff Beecham, the manufacturer's recruiter. Hello and welcome to Insights for Manufacturing. Today we're focusing on employee benefits, and I'm delighted to welcome my guest today, Anne Barker, who is the Sales and Partnership Director at Excellect. Welcome to the show, Anne.
Thank you very much, Jeff, and thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. So, quick intro then, Anne. Excellect, employee benefits is an area that your business specialises in, but it's something very important to me in my business as an executive headhunter. So, do you want to just give us a brief overview as to what you do, who you are?
Yeah, okay. Well, we are a Bristol-based whole of market broker. That whole of market part is important because it means that we can work with all the benefit providers in the market. We're not restricted at all. We're regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority to provide advice. And we are a small, we specialise in benefits for SME businesses, and we are one. There are 12 of us. And it's so we understand what small businesses go through because we are one. And so I suppose really our USP is that whole of market thing.
Yeah.
And really making sure that customers can get access to the best products at the best prices. And my role is quite important really because a lot of the clients that come to us come from third party introducers. We work with lots of HR consultants and financial advisors, for instance, and so it's very, very important to all of us to make sure that if somebody refers one of their precious clients to us, that we always give them feedback and progress reports. Nobody wants to feel that those precious clients have just sort of disappeared into a black hole and they never hear anything. So my role is all about the partnership relationships and trying to make it easy for our partners to talk about employee benefits and then also helping the team. And it was just me really in our sales team when I joined in 2019, but over the last 12-18 months employee benefits has been so busy, and so my team has expanded. So in my little bit there are now 3 of us, so
Great. Okay. Well, thanks for that. As I said at the start, employee benefits from a recruitment point of view, it's something that is it's intrinsic to the whole process. If you haven't got competitive benefits for your employees, whether it's at shop floor level or at, director level and main board, it can impact hiring and retention and things like that. So just in terms of, the current situation, Anne, what are your clients saying about attracting and retaining talent and the challenges that they're having around benefits?
Yeah, well, they are having those challenges, that's for sure. Different things, really. Sometimes we find that mainly it's attracting at the moment.
Okay.
People are saying that they can't even get candidates to come to job interviews. That's one of the things. They can't even get them to go to the interview, let alone actually interview anybody to choose someone.
Yes.
Once they get people, they don't tend to have a problem with retention, although they go through peaks and troughs of that. But generally, it's finding the right people with the right skills. And I think a lot of businesses are recognising how competitive the world is now for the best employees. And so a lot of them are trying to find ways of being the employer of choice and making themselves stand out. So that's where I come in really, and try and give them some ideas of how they can do that. But I've had clients talking to me about having job positions available for months.
Yeah.
And that really affects productivity, growth, everything, doesn't it, really?
Of course, yes. It's a frustration for boards, for the HR team in that company, looking to fill those positions. And if they're using an external recruiter, it sometimes does boil down to if you can, there are always candidates out there, but whether you can actually get
Yeah.
those candidates to join your business ultimately,
Yes.
particularly if they're already working for someone else, that's where the critical stage is, really, because you're competing with their existing employer's benefits structure.
Yes.
So yeah, being
Yes.
able to access the whole market through a broker like yourselves is, can give a business a bit of competitive advantage.
There are certain sectors as well that struggle more. Obviously, sectors like the care sector, quite
Yeah.
low paid, very much in demand. Technology is another one as well. I mean, since the pandemic, where I think people have realised that increasingly they don't have to be in London to get a London salary.
Yep.
They could actually do their job from wherever they are most of the time, maybe just travel into the office once or twice a month. Then that's made it hard for technology businesses. And also technology, one that's come up a few times with technology clients is trying to find a technical person with all that, those skills I haven't got, the technical skills, but combined with the communication skills.
Yes.
That's an interesting one, particularly where they're operating a service desk or something like that. So actually the technology and then building the relationships with the clients, that's one that they often struggle with. So yeah, in some sectors more than others, I'd say.
Yeah. What are the sort of common misconceptions about benefits?
So it's my belief that I think a lot of small businesses probably think that they're too small to offer benefits. I think that's one thing. I think a lot of them think it's very expensive and they can't compete. And then also they might start a project of trying to do something and then they just run out of time. You know what it's like with juggling that to-do list. So
Yeah.
the first thing, you'll be sorry you asked me this now, but the first thing is actually very small businesses can access benefits. So you can actually do employee benefits with as few as 3 employees.
Okay.
Whole of market from 5. So some providers will quote for 3, some won't. But at 5, you can normally access the whole of the market. So that's that myth. That's that one done.
Yep.
The other thing is affordability. Again, I think businesses imagine that it's for the big boys and that they can't afford to do anything. But actually, employee benefits start at £1 a week per employee. And there are so many things like death in service, life cover, and a lovely little plan called the Health Cash Plan that just are what employees seem to want in their lives. And they do, I mean, the Health Cash Plan particularly just does so many things, discounts and virtual GP, employee assistance program, and being able to claim back for teeth and glasses and all that. Just every business we talk to just says, almost like, where have you been all my life? It's such a low cost thing that does a lot of things. And then really when it comes to not knowing where to start, it is a case of, I think for us and our team is just trying to help people through the choices and make some suggestions as the type of things that might fit in. Because of course, every business is different. They might have different age demographic for a start, and they're thinking, what is it that I could offer that's going to appeal to everybody? Small businesses sometimes think they can't compete with larger companies.
Yeah.
And you were saying about a bespoke. Is it possible to create a bespoke package? Well, if businesses are trying to attract their employees from larger businesses, those employees will be used to having a whole range of things. So they will be used to having death in service. They'll probably be used to having some sort of sick pay. They'll also be used to maybe having private medical insurance. And so there's no reason why businesses can't actually match up with that on a much smaller scale. You could be trying to attract somebody from a 1,000-person business, but actually with 5 people in your business, you could still offer a lot of those things.
Yeah. And what are the other, sort of really common ones? I know the death in service is has become more popular since the pandemic. What are the other sort of, really popular benefits at the moment?
Well, I think there's two. Actually, we've had a look at this over the last couple of years of which have been our most popular three. And death in service is one of those,
Okay.
actually. Health cash plan, as I mentioned to you, that is, and that's because it does a lot of things. It does a lot of things for a low cost. And some businesses, for instance, will be having to pay for their employees to have eye tests
Yeah.
under the DSE legislation. Well, if they have a health cash plan, employees can go and have their eye tests and claim back for it, and that fulfills that legal requirement. The other thing, actually, with the health cash plan, and it's another reason why it's been so popular, is I don't know about you, but a lot of people had to move to working from home. And I know they're all supposed to have their desk assessments and everything, but a lot of people were struggling with neck and shoulder things. And
Yeah.
so I must admit, I claimed the annual limit on my health cash plan, and
Yeah.
acupuncture and everything, because everybody sat on their sofa or their beds hunched over their laptop, and all of a sudden that starts to play a part. And so being able to claim back for physiotherapy, and at the moment discounts is very important, or discounts are important, because employers can't always give pay rises, can they? Pay rise on pay rise. But actually, you could give somebody 4% off their weekly shopping on a
Yeah.
permanent basis. So that's popular. And a health cash plan can also include an employee assistance program. And I think particularly at the moment and through the pandemic as well, people will go through so much, won't they, in their lives, and how can an employer possibly know how to help an employee with all those things that it might be? They might have financial worries, they might have relationship worries or health worries, and some people are carers for parents and for children, and they've just got so much going on that it's hard. Bereavement as well, that's another one. It's
Yeah.
hard for employers to know how to help their employees with that. So if you can include an employee assistance program where there's access to counsellors, either on an app or telephone, or even face-to-face counselling. Some employers actually pay for employees to have counselling. Well, if you've got an EAP with some face-to-face counselling in there, that has been important and
Yeah.
popular. And
And that's good
then
for
I'm sure,
building culture, isn't it?
yes,
Good for building
oh,
culture in the business.
yes, it definitely is. And I suppose the other one, and I know it won't surprise you, but private medical insurance is really probably one of the most popular things at the moment for a couple of reasons. Obviously, the NHS is struggling. I read yesterday, actually, and I read a different statistic last week, but I read yesterday that 1 in 5 people in the UK now have private medical insurance. Now, that'll either be through
Okay.
work, or we've noticed that people are taking it out for themselves for the first time.
Yeah.
So, if you've got an employer trying to think, well, what can I offer my employees that they're going to value? At the moment, when you know that 1 in 5 people have got it or are taking it out, you know that that's going to be a popular thing,
Yeah.
because nobody wants to be on that 7.2 million waiting list, do they?
No,
And
absolutely.
there's a business side to that as well, isn't there? Again, if you've got somebody off waiting for an operation and unable to be productive, you want that person back to work. So yeah, so those three really: health cash plan, including an EAP, death in service, and private medical insurance. Those are the three.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing
Mm.
those, and just listening to that
Mm.
range of benefits. Clearly, there are benefits to the individual, the employee, and the business as well. So it's a
Yes,
win-win for everybody, isn't it?
yes,
Okay.
yes. Mm.
So I've heard of flexible benefits. What are they? What are the advantages of flexible benefits?
Well, I would say the main advantage is that they allow the benefits to be tailored to the individual. So, if let's say you've got somebody that is 20, young, free, and single, and so death in service isn't going to be of interest to them because they're
Okay.
invincible. They're never going to die. Whereas you might have somebody there with a family who would actually appreciate maybe having a bit more death in service. So a flexible benefits platform, that's the way it's delivered, allows people to choose what they have to a certain extent. There will always be core benefits that are on there, and the employer can dictate that. But if somebody, and there can be things on the platform which allows them to buy and sell holidays. We tend to say that flexible benefits generally are more suitable for businesses with 50 or more employees.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that platform, that portal, needs setting up and tailoring. It needs all the benefit choices feeding in there. It needs branding. So creating it, there's a fee to create it.
Yeah.
And if you've got 20 employees, say, you could probably buy an awful lot of benefits for the same amount as it would be to set up the platform.
Yeah.
But the advantage of it is really that the information is all in one place. For a lot of HR managers, it saves them an awful lot of time because they could just direct people to the portal.
Yes.
But they work well with businesses the way they are used to using technology, and they embrace technology. Where people are not like that, and they're not really interested in being on their phone, because normally they can access all the details about their benefits 24 hours a day wherever they are. But if you've got people that aren't engaged with technology, or if you've got people where they've never had any benefits before at all, sometimes it doesn't quite fit.
Yeah.
Plus, it can restrict the choice of benefits a little bit, because not all providers will allow their benefits to be flexed. So you've got to have that ability to say, well, actually, this person wants to have 5 times death in service, and they want to use part of the amount their employer is willing to give them to buy that.
So does that mean if a business had a flexible benefits scheme, does that mean that different people can have different levels of whatever benefits are in the package to choose from?
Yes, there has to be a choice, and there will normally be a minimum level. Yeah. And the business can also, they can dictate who can have certain things. So it's not uncommon, for instance, for a business to put in private medical insurance for the senior managers and senior leaders. So if that was the case, they might not make it available to everybody, but there'll be other things on there that they can choose from. So they could choose to buy say higher levels of death in service. They could choose to pay a higher pension contribution. That sort of thing.
Okay.
But as I say, they tend to be for 50 and above, I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So without sort of disclosing details of any specific clients, do you see any common disagreements between what for example, the HR directors suggest and what the CEO or CFO or owner of the business agree to, and what are the reasons behind those typically? Anything to share?
Yeah. Well, everyone's different, I suppose. And it's always interesting to try to find out who makes the final decision. And there are ways of getting around things to a certain extent. I mean, I had one recently, actually, where I had 2 directors. One was an HR director, and the other was, I can't remember if he was the chief executive now, or the financial controller. And he actually said to me, we're really quite mean, and we don't want to offer a lot of stuff. We don't want to pay for a lot of stuff. And the HR manager said to me after he'd gone off the call, I don't agree with that. I think we should be offering a lot of things to people. Anyway, in the end, I showed her the health cash plan. And she said, I really like that, and everybody like it, and it's not going to cost much. And so what I did was I helped her put something together where she could then communicate it. And she came back within a day to say, yeah, we're going to do that. So sometimes it is a case of trying to help the HR manager in communicating it, the advantages of that sort of thing. I would say the other one really is often it is down to the cost, but having said that, I mean, we always say that we'll give any quotations completely free of obligation.
Yeah,
And so if there's something the HR manager likes, but she's not sure if she can talk around the others, we'll say, well, look, why don't you have the figures? Because I think that information is power, isn't it, really?
absolutely.
See
Yeah,
the figures. People might imagine things are going to cost more than they actually do. And sometimes that's enough. Yeah, I think that's it
fantastic.
really. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any changes in the pipeline regarding government legislation on employee benefits?
I don't think there's anything definite. The
Okay.
things that they keep talking about reducing tax relief on pension contributions for higher rate taxpayers.
Yes.
But been talking about that for a long time, haven't they? And then the other one that I've seen recently, and wouldn't it be great actually if they were able to do it, is I've been bearing in mind how the NHS is struggling. There has been some press comment about perhaps giving businesses some sort of tax incentive to introduce private medical insurance to
Yeah.
their employees. And I mean, if they did, of course, that takes the whole thing is that takes pressure off the NHS, and then the business benefits through tax saving,
Yeah.
but it hasn't happened yet.
It sounds like a bit of a
Um,
no-brainer, really. I mean, the
mm,
NHS wouldn't be so burdened. The government saves money, so they can invest that into other things. And of
mm,
course, the businesses get an incentive as well. So I think that's a great idea.
yeah, yes. I thought it was a great idea. I really hope that happens, but um, haven't, you know how you see these things and there's a flurry of comments about it and
Yeah.
then it's died down. I guess the government's got a bit on its plate at the moment, hasn't it?
That's a fair comment. Absolutely. So for businesses that are used to using, service providers, but providers of benefits directly as opposed to a broker, what are the
Mm.
advantages of using a broker, Anne?
Well, there's quite a few, although you would expect me to say that anyway. I think the first thing is really to save them time.
Yeah.
So if you're a business and you're thinking about, well, where do I start? You might not know the different choices of benefits that you could access. So you need perhaps somebody to tell you the types of things that you can do. You might not need to know all the providers. You might not know all the providers. So, I mean, a really good example actually is with private medical insurance. So, if you were thinking, right, I need to take out some private medical insurance for my business, you would probably know 3 or 4 different providers that you could approach.
Yeah.
That's going to take you some time to shop around, but to approach them all. Now, you may not know that I think there's 9 different providers. Well, we would go to all of them.
Yes.
And the thing is that things like private medical insurance can vary between different providers, and they can vary between postcodes and dependent on the size of the scheme.
Right.
So I've got a little slide somewhere actually, which on one example, and I think it was only on a 4-man business, the difference between the lowest priced policy and the most expensive was around about £500 a month. Well, if unless
Crikey.
you knew all of the different providers, how would you ever know which one you were going to go for? So,
Yeah.
so that's one thing, doing that market comparison. But then the other thing is we're able to look at all the different features of the policies. And for instance, 1 or 2 providers offer free optical and dental cover. Well, you wouldn't necessarily know that if you were looking at just a quote. You wouldn't know the quality of the provider.
Yeah.
The other thing actually is that where we get what we call market feedback, which is where we gathered all the quotes in, we will then, if we can, use that feedback to negotiate the best price with the provider. So if actually one policy looks like it's slightly better on cover, but they're coming out slightly more expensive, then we will negotiate on behalf of the client to try and get them the best price. So that's one reason, and actually, an important thing is something called market parity,
Yeah.
which people probably think it's going to cost them more to use a broker. Now, Some brokers do charge a fee. We don't actually. We don't charge anything for getting quotes and doing that research. So there's something called market parity, which means that presented with the same information, a provider's got to give the same quotes to everybody. So actually, if you chose to let us do the legwork or to go and do it yourself, the price would be exactly the same.
Right.
So you would do that, wouldn't you? The other
Absolutely.
thing is having the annual proactive review, which is something that we do because actually things can change from year to
Yeah.
year, and sometimes we don't try not to recommend people chop and change if we possibly can, but we actually do that annual review every single year to make sure that the client's still got the best policy. And like you were saying about people do review their policies, I think people do, but I've seen it with certain brokers sending people their renewal terms
Yeah.
right at the last minute, which gives them very little time to actually shop around or make a decision. And then in the end, they just think, oh, I better renew
Too
it.
much hassle. Just renew.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
what happens. So that's why, yeah.
Well, that's really good because I mean, just taking it from from my own perspective of, for example, car insurance.
Mm,
You normally get a letter or an email, well, an email these days,
mm.
into your inbox saying, a month or so before, your policy's up for
Yeah,
renewal, etc.,
yes.
etc.
Mm,
But with you, but it is different with benefits because different companies have a range of different individuals. This is just me and one car. So for you guys to actually have that review, and you might be able to offer some advice on new things, new products or services coming onto the market,
yeah,
whereas with cars it's just like you get the email that says this is what your new
yes,
monthly payment's going to be.
yes.
If you're happy to renew, there's nothing to do, and they've sort of got you at that point to a degree.
Yeah,
So it's a
I've
lot
just
more
had that
customer
with,
focused.
yes, I've just had that with my house insurance actually.
Yeah,
It had gone up a lot and I wasn't particularly happy. So I did ask a broker that I knew to have a look at it for me, and they actually came back and said it has gone up by that amount, and actually that policy is a good policy. And so at least I knew. I
yeah,
mean, there's one of the things actually that was so we offer free employee benefits reviews to people that have got things already,
yes,
and and that's one of the things I normally say and say, look, as long as you can spend spare us a little bit of time to do the review, you're either going to come out the other end of it
mm,
knowing what you've got's okay, or finding out that there's something better. Either way,
yeah.
it's good, isn't it?
Well, the
Mm,
customer gets peace of mind, don't they? Even if they don't
mm,
change, they get that peace of mind.
mm.
So you're
Yeah.
giving away added value, and people
Mm,
remember that sort of thing as well. I think if you're giving a bit of free advice, people
mm,
always remember that. And if you don't
mm.
win them as a client this time round, then maybe they'll remember that
Yeah.
service next time.
Yes. Yes.
Brilliant.
We hope so.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about Excellect. What
Mm,
what sort of plans have you got? I mean, I'm not overly familiar with the business historically.
mm.
You mentioned, you're a sort of is it 12 person
Yes.
team? I mean,
12.
what
Yeah.
are the plans? I mean, it's a big area, isn't it? Employee
Mm.
benefits. So
Yeah.
there must be a huge opportunity for a
Yes.
business like yours to sort of grow. So what's the sort of
Yes.
what are the sort of plans moving forward, Anne, for Excellect?
Well, we are continuing to grow. I think at the start of the pandemic, I probably would have thought, well, nobody's going to want to talk about benefits at all now. That's it. Whatever month that was, I was like, well,
Yeah,
that's it. Then nobody's going to want to talk about benefits, and I just could not have been more wrong.
yeah,
So, I mean, Simon Kelly, our managing director, he started the business in 2014 with just him and one employee. When I joined, I was number six, which was 2019. I've tried to retire three times, or twice actually. I've just failed the most recent one. Um, and and when I joined, yes, I was number six, and now we're 12, and we're looking for two apprentices because our team's just growing and growing and growing. My role really, more than anything, is to try and spread the word about what we do, what we can offer,
Yeah.
to find new partners who would like to work with us. And I genuinely think we're, the good guys. I think that's why I've stayed at Excellect, actually, because I like that we always put the client first, and we always aim to do what we say we're going to do. And I am a bit old. I've been working since 1974, but I've got those traditional sort of service values
Yeah.
in me. And so I probably thought I would just get a little job to see me through to retirement. And I joined for a couple of years. And 4 years later, I'm still here because it just relates to my own ethos. Put the client first every
Yeah.
single time. And then that seems to work. We've got a 97% client retention rate.
That's good.
So not only are it's attraction and retention, isn't it? We're doing well on the retention, and we seem to be attracting lots and lots of new inquiries as well. So
Brilliant.
continuing to grow, find new partners who'd like to work with us, take on a couple of apprentices, and stay happy.
Yeah.
That's
Well, it's good to good to know that your values are aligned, with the business. That's always important. And I think clients are always looking for product or service providers to have, values that are aligned to their own, really. So that's what makes the world go round. Well, it's been a great discussion today, Anne. Thank you very much for coming on. As I said, employee benefits is such an important topic, for all businesses. This podcast goes out to, predominantly manufacturing and engineering type businesses, but it's relevant at all levels. So hopefully the viewers have, or will, by the time this comes out, they will have enjoyed this episode. And, hopefully it will have shined a light on what you're doing at Excellect and help you with your own business growth. So thanks for
Yes,
joining
thank
me
you.
today.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. So that wraps up today's episode. And I hope that the listeners have enjoyed this particular discussion. Thanks again to Anne Barker. Thank you for listening, and look out for the next episode of Insights for Manufacturing. See you next time, and bye-bye.